Very briefly, we're going to define, so it's always good to have an agreement on what it is we're talking about. So we'll define CSR. We use this text in our classes on this topic, and I think it's a very good definition of what social responsibility is. And that is a commitment to improve community well-being through discretionary, important, business practices and contributions of corporate resources, okay? Discretionary being the key word there. It's a voluntary commitment of resources, not required, not something you have to do by regulators or by the government that you are operating with. It's something you're doing on your own, related to your company or your strategy, your business or customers. That, in my view, is key to it qualifying as a CSR activity. Strategic CSR, in my view, is the notion of doing well by doing good. It's possible to improve your profits, improve your operation, improve your working conditions, and do well as a company, as an organization, in your society, in your local markets where you operate. It's very important that you connect what you're doing with your corporate values, the mission, the expertise, the strategies. Other things that are happening, people are working with nonprofits and NGOs, and they're doing distribution jointly for activities. They're volunteering employee time against the goal or objective, whether it's Habitat for Humanity or, water management in a given part of the world. And integrating the sponsorships that you are involved in corporately. Coca-Cola does this very well, into your marketing and advertising, okay? What are the benefits of doing this? Why should we bother? Companies who are involved in the strategic CSR, like I just described, see increased sales and market share, strengthen brand positioning, as he was talking about earlier, enhance corporate image and clout, whatever you want to call that in the marketplace. Importantly, the ability to attract and motivate and keep employees. In a competitive marketplace, when someone's trying to decide between, God willing, a couple of offers, the company with a better reputation for doing well in the community is going to be the one that more and more young people like yourselves want to work for. It's not just about the compensation. Oh, that's important. You can see decreased operating costs. If you are more efficiently managing your use of water, electricity, resources, your supply chain, guess what? Your costs go down. You get up, your margins are better, and your CEO is happy, and your CFO is happier. So these are things to think about. And we'll talk about this later. There's an increased appeal to investors. If you're familiar with socially responsible investors, there's multi-billions, sometimes even trillions of dollars in the marketplace that's looking for companies who are involved in this kind of activity. And these funds that invest in stocks and bonds want to invest in companies that are responsible. How are we going to move forward? What are the keys to being successful? Let's talk about CSR as a business imperative. My recommendation to you is simple. Social responsibility is not a communication strategy. Social responsibility is a business strategy with a communications component. You understand the difference? You do it because it's good business, and then you communicate it and get the benefit for your reputation. But the first reason to do it is it's good business. That's going to get CEOs and CFOs' attention, much more than, we're going to get great press if we do this, boss. That's not what they want to hear right now, okay? Talk a bit about sustainability reporting and partnerships and some key takeaways. Some of the major challenges to effective social responsibility, in my view, are as follows. Choosing the right issue. Selecting a specific cause inside of an issue. Let's say you decide you want to work on childhood obesity. Big challenge, big category. You can't do all of that. You're going to fail. So you pick a piece of that. Nutrition labeling, nutrition education, exercise programs for your employees and their families. A piece of it that you can do, implement, measure, and show progress on, then saying, we're going to solve this big problem. You're not going to do it. You're going to fail. And then they're going to say, I told you so. Like any other communications activity, you haven't got a good plan, you haven't got a good activity. So you have to really have a thoughtful plan that includes communications, marketing, research, all the components that you'll be studying. Measurement and evaluation, very, very critical. How are you going to know if you're making progress? How are you going to know if you're going in the right direction? And how are you going to show management that you're going to get a return on the investment that they have made? Okay? And the other thing that drives me crazy, and that's sustaining it beyond the launcher. Here's 5 tips. If your company or your client is doing reporting, by this I'm talking about an annual report where you publish a sustainability report or you put it on the website. First thing is to put it online. Don't just do a big printed book and leave it on a shelf somewhere. You may use your printed collateral to summarize that. You know, if you put a section in your annual report or you put update at your annual meeting, but ongoing basis. Stories and illustrations of how this is working in a given part of the world where you operate is very useful. You know, saying we gave X amount of money to improve infrastructure in Thailand is one thing. Someone whose business is growing and a community that's rebuilding itself because of the bridges and roads you've built, because that's what you do, you're a transportation company, is a much more interesting narrative and will get you visibility, will get you PR, and will get you reputational benefits. You should put key performance indicators in some kind of data dashboard on your website, you know, available on a quarterly or other basis that tells how you're doing. Number of people who signed up, number of roads that you fixed, number of pounds lost by kids in a given marketplace that you're working in. And keep it fresh. More transparency with what you're doing in the community, reporting, updating people, problems that you experience and solutions that you come up with is much better than waiting till you have a crisis and then saying, but we're good guys. You know, look at what we've been doing. At that point, people have already got a problem with what you're doing. So you're better off engaging in the kind of activity and programs that create positive reputation. When inevitably something goes wrong, you get a little more slack than somebody who hasn't said anything about what they're doing. It can be measured, it should be measured, and if you want to succeed, it has to be measured in very tangible ways. This is a big opportunity for PR people. We all talk about the big seat at the table, getting management's attention, et cetera, et cetera. Bottom line profitability, brand building, reputation improvement, employees who want to work for your company versus somebody else, governments who give you permission to operate. Those are all good things. To succeed, CSR initiatives must be business related, have appeal or at least address the concerns of all your stakeholders. Remember, a stakeholder is somebody pro or con, not just your friends. And be measurable so you can show progress.